Hi, thanks for tuning in. The interview you're about to watch was filmed a little over a year ago. In fact, I think I gave birth less than a week after filming. A lot has happened this past year. Since offering stem cell banking services for adults and newborns, Hope Biosciences has been focused on therapeutic development, all to ensure that the cells that are banked with us can one day be used to treat a variety of indications. As of today, we have 4 active FDA-approved clinical trials in progress. They include rheumatoid arthritis, spinal cord injury, cerebral palsy, and Parkinson's disease. In the next 60 days, we'll be announcing a truly exciting trial with the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston for those suffering from chronic neurological injury. We've made quite a bit of progress and will continue to move forth in this effort and work as quickly as possible to gain patient access in the United States. If you are watching this video, you are probably eagerly awaiting the arrival of a special little one. As a new mom, I want to leave you with this thought. The stem cells you bank with us, it's not a question of if your child is going to need them, it's when they are going to use them. The very fact that my kids have their pure stem cells banked gives me peace of mind in knowing that if they have options, if they are faced with a chronic degenerative condition. But most importantly, I have hope that in their lifetime, they will have the opportunity to prevent the diseases that affect us today. We are so excited to be able to share our technology with you and look forward to welcoming your little one to join the Hope family. I'm Donna Chang, President and CEO of Hope Biosciences. I started this company with a mission to solve the incurable conditions that people face all around the world. And we knew that regenerative therapies, stem cell therapies, were the answer. Everyone sort of understands the potential of stem cells and what they could possibly mean for diseases and for eradicating diseases. So when it came to finding a great source for stem cells, the ability to use your own stem cells to potentially fix your own conditions was a very attractive option. Just because it's so safe, because these cells come from your own body. So in adults, we take stem cells from fat tissue, and it's simply because fat is very easy to attain, and we can easily extract stem cells out of fat and grow them in the lab. Well, as we were embarking on that direction, we realized that there really aren't any options for children. I mean, children can also give fat, but perhaps babies as well, they should have some opportunity for this. And we found out that in some states, it's actually legal to take your own placenta. So the goal was, could we isolate the same kind of regenerative stem cells, specifically mesenchymal stem cells, which we believe are essentially they're multipotent or pluripotent potential cells. They have the ability to become almost any kind of cell type in the body. Is there any way that we could actually harness those stem cells from a tissue like the placenta that you would in fact just throw away after you deliver your baby? And we really perfected that technology, and here we are today with the ability to bank a child's own mesenchymal stem cells from their own placenta. This is totally different from any kind of quote-unquote stem cell banking services that are currently available on the market. I didn't realize how confusing the market was until I had my own babies growing in me. I am currently pregnant and getting ready to deliver my own children. This is my first experience going through this, and I've been to the doctor, talked to them about banking and what does cord blood banking mean, and all the information that is out there is overwhelming and very confusing. And as a stem cell scientist and a researcher, I thought, well, if it's confusing to me, I wonder how confusing it must be for everyone else. So when I started to do my own research in what should I bank for my own children, I looked online, I talked to my doctor, and there's so many options and so much information out there about, well, cord blood banking and cord banking and placenta banking and all these different options for babies. And I found the information to be overwhelming and hard to understand, hard to decipher, and the options are often very expensive. And it's really hard to understand what you're really buying into. And every year, there's also investments that have to be made to cryopreserve or to preserve those cells. And you really want to make sure, like, well, what could those cells be used for later on? So there were a lot of questions that needed to be answered. And throughout this process, I realized, well, there's no real stem cell banking option. Even though they're all called stem cell banking, it's actually not really stem cell banking if you get down to the nitty-gritty details of it. So how do I know that what I'm doing, what I'm banking is really the best? And I think just from what we've learned and from our ability to create this technology and make this available to families is really life-changing. So if you bank cord blood is generally full of hematopoietic stem cells. These stem cells make all kinds of blood cells. And in a situation, if the child had something like leukemia or some blood-based disorder, then it would make sense to be treated with their own cord blood. So here's the process. I want you to think about what we do as being stem cell banking. It has really nothing to do with the placenta. The placenta is simply the source in which we attain the stem cells. We actually throw out the placenta. We just extract out the cells. And it's actually from the amniotic membrane, so from the outside tissue of the placenta. We take that off, and we're actually extracting the mesenchymal stem cells, so the stem cells that actually can produce almost any cell type in the body. We take those stem cells and we isolate only those. We throw out everything else. So you start with those precious few cells, and from there we start growing them, multiplying them, making virtually unlimited quantities of these cells. And we bank what's called the master cell bank. Think of it like a yeast starter. Like that child will have their own master cell bank. So that any time cells are needed, we simply take a vial out of that master cell bank, grow new cells, generate new cells identical to the original, and put them back. They'll still have more cells generating. We can generate on demand anytime the child would ever need them. So dealing with multiple doses, different diseases in the future, they want to use it until they're 80 years old, they'll be there. So people ask whether we offer cord blood banking, and the answer is no. If I wouldn't invest and pay my own money for it, I'm not going to offer it to people. I think it's just confusing, and if the chance of using it is very slim, and if I would need multiple doses anyway to treat the problem, then donating cord blood is a much better solution, because then you'll still have access to these banks of cord blood if you needed them. So I would strongly encourage, if there is a need, if there is maybe some genetically based blood disorders running in the family, or if there's any concern like that, then perhaps donating your cord blood is a really good option. But yeah, what we do here is simply stem cell banking, because we know that the usage, the potential usage of those cells is very high and highly likely in anybody's lifetime to access those cells. So the kinds of diseases that could be affected by mesenchymal stem cells, the stem cells that we bank from the placenta, the kind of diseases that can be affected are the list just goes on, and it seems almost every day that there's another condition, yet another condition that's been affected. Things like cerebral palsy, autism, congenital heart defects, kidney failure, kidney problems. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And the real reason for that is because the mesenchymal stem cells are reparative and regenerative cells. They do a lot of other things too. They have a bunch of other functions, like they regulate the immune system. A lot of children are born with autoimmune conditions as well, and that's becoming more and more prevalent in these generations, actually. Autoimmune disease is affecting us more than it ever has. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, but these cells, for some reason, when given back to you in large quantities, have been shown in clinical trials to really affect the immune system and attenuate the immune system. It'll upregulate and downregulate the immune system according to what the body needs to create that perfect balance and return the body to a normal state. There's a lot of research going on in those kinds of conditions and chronic degenerative conditions and in vascular conditions. But again, the real hope is in these types of pluripotential cells. And that's why we bank and we put in all of our research into these particular stem cells. So there's a clear difference between cord blood banking and what we do. But how about places that bank the placenta and bank the cord tissue itself? Cord tissue and the placenta do contain mesenchymal stem cells. But if you take the tissue itself or the organ itself and you freeze it, you cryopreserve it, then you're really depending upon, well, what happens when it comes time to use it? When you thaw that out and you need to process those cells, what will be alive? It really is a gamble. You never really know. And again, when it comes to creating therapeutics in the future, we will see that you will likely need more than one dose to fix any real chronic degenerative issue. So to have a potentially limited supply is really not a great approach. I was really on a mission to be able to bank my own children's stem cells immediately, as of day one. Is there a way to do that? I'm not going to take their fat. I'm not going to do liposuction on them when they're born, but is there a different way? And when we found that we could actually take the exact same stem cells that are in their fat from the placenta and use the placenta as a source, now it just made everything so much easier and so much more accessible. And then with all the confusion out there, with all the other cord blood banking and stem cell banking options that are out there that really don't provide real options when it comes to treatment, I thought, we have to offer this, not only to me, not only for these guys. I've got two in here with two separate placentas that we can bank at the same time, but we can offer it to everyone else too, and we should. It's a service that we absolutely should. And cost-wise, would be almost the same, even though there's so much technology involved, and in all the research that we've done so far to get to this point, we can still offer it at a competitive price. And so I think that's why it's very important what we're doing today with this. And it really started here. I think what's truly amazing about our technology is the fact that my children will be born with access to their own stem cells from day one. You see, a lot of us have access to our stem cells when we decide that we want to bank them. And again, we normally take fat from people. And generally, the people that we're dealing with are people who have chronic degenerative conditions. So you're talking about people in their 60s and 70s and 80s, all have good stem cells in their fat. There's no real difference there. But the fact that you have access to them from day one really changes everything. Peace of mind, knowing that you have access. In the United States, there are provisions to be able to utilize these sorts of cells in case of an emergency situation, any traumatic events, car accidents, what you name it, just to have that peace of mind that what you've banked is really usable and has so many potential uses is what's just so amazing. And if one of my kids says they want to become a football player, and there's a lot of worries about concussions and issues with brain damage, and all of these things are treatable. This is what we research. We know that it is in fact treatable now with these stem cells, these very same stem cells. So the fact that you have these options, I feel like my children also have limitless options too, and have so much more control over their health.